Over the last couple of years, classic car values have gone mental. Everything from Fords to Ferraris is fetching prices on the private market, at auctions and at dealers that were previously unheard of. That is, with one exception. Pre-war cars. Whereas a 60s or a 70s Ford might fetch 20 or 30 grand these days, its 1930s equivalent will struggle to even break 10 grand. So why is that? Well, we're going to take this lovely example of a 1934 Humber 12 for a drive and see if we can work it out.
Who's driving?
I'm driving.
Ah, does that mean I can sit in the back?
Go on then, your lordship.
Excellent. The first thing we need to do is go and get some petrol, I think.
I think we do, yes. So let me manhandle this bus steering wheel. Slightly aggressive clutch. But,
yeah, that's all right. Just missed that Morris Minor there.
There we go, which is lovely in itself, but a bit too new for us today.
Yeah, that's a 1960s vintage.
Modern by comparison.
Yeah.
Well, it is. Well, you think this car was already considered a classic by the time that Morris Minor was made.
Yeah. I love the dials. They're really traditional, like some sort of grandfather clock.
And it's actually quite good instrumentation. We've got water temperature, we've got amps, we've got oil pressure. You've got more on this 1934 car than my 2003 Fiat. Is that second? Yeah, there we go.
There we are, well
I've
done.
mastered the gearbox.
Is it a crash box?
I believe it's a crash box. Obviously no synchros, so on the down change it's going to be double D clutches all the way. Do you know what? The engine is smooth. You can probably tell. It's...
What about the lane departure warning system?
Oh, that's not so good. Double D clutch, yes!
Well done, that man. It's very impressive.
Oh, bit of body roll.
I've got to say, Joe, it's lovely being back here. This is the way to travel. I've got loads of space. The seats are nice and soft and comfortable. I've got my funny little rope grab handle thing going on here.
Yes, you're well off for safety. It is very noisy. We're doing an indicated 47 and it is extremely noisy, so that is possibly one reason why people prefer like an 80s classic, for example, because something like a 944 or a 190E is a bit more refined than this, where it's still being considered a classic.
But you know what? I wouldn't obviously be taking this down to the Nürburgring, but you know, if you had sort of took it for a gentle drive around the Cotswolds or something like that.
This is definitely an older car to drive than even a Morris Minor. You know, everything has to be deliberate with it. The clutch is really heavy, the brakes have got no servo, so you have to stamp on those to stop. The steering though, I'll tell you what, we moved a Jaguar Mark 10 around today, and I'll tell you what, it's no vaguer than that. I'm not sure what a compliment that is, that it's no more vague than a Jaguar Mark 10. But you know what, you would imagine with it, well, this is nearly an 80-year-old car, that I'd be driving along, soaring at the wheel and fighting it just to keep it in a straight line. It's fine. I can drive it one-handed and spout rubbish to the camera while I'm doing it.
And I don't know, there's a real sense of occasion driving along in something like this. I love the sort of wooden fascia.
The smell in here as well.
The beading down the bonnet with the mascot on the end there. You really feel like you're driving something special.
And also the noise, and we always go on about the excitement of a car, don't we? Like something like a Caterham, where it's kind of raw and stripped down, it makes it more exciting. But with a car where there's this much noise and vibration going on at 50 miles an hour, it's an event, it's exciting. And it's good fun, actually, I have to say. This doesn't feel like a challenge. Activate my fantastic Trafficator out there on the wheel.
There it is.
Stamp on my unservoed brakes. Oh! Yeah, there's when you tell the age, there is the lack of brakes. It actually goes okay. For a near 90-year-old car, the performance is not as dismal. I genuinely expected to be embarrassed about how slow this was and like be holding people up and getting overtaken by wildlife.
But the engine's sounding quite eager, isn't it?
It's quite eager, it starts well.
I mean, I would argue that the A149 in the depths of January is not necessarily the ideal scenario for this car, but I say a nice spring or summer country lane,
wafting along, stop for a nice pub, go to a little classic car show.
Perfect, that's the dream. That's the dream with a car like this.
And actually, pre-war cars are perfect for that because they're so thin on the ground that if you go to your local classic car show in a 1930s car, you're probably going to be the only one there. It is a sort of dedication to even think about owning one of these because obviously, apart from the really popular stuff like your Model Ts and your Austin 7s, I don't imagine parts supply for something like a Humber 12 is going to be brilliant.
I kind of live in hope that there's some bloke in a shed somewhere that's got loads of old Humber bits that he's been hoarding from his great-grandfather or something, and he's probably got them if you just find the right club or the right forum.
It's probably the same with running a lot of niche cars, not just pre-war stuff. Any niche car, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, I'll speak to Jim, he can sort you out with a gearbox which you might need after I finish changing gear with it. So come on then, why are pre-war cars not more popular? Why aren't more people driving these?
I suspect it's because the generation of people who would have remembered these from their childhood are no longer there in the same quantities. There's not that recognition factor on the television, maybe. I've said before in previous videos that I think there was a little resurgence with pre-war stuff when Downton Abbey was on TV, you know, primetime TV. There's not enough people that care about them enough to not be scared by some of the
eccentricities.
Exactly, the sort of those sort of quirks of a pre-war car. But I don't know, anyone with a sort of mechanical knowledge, basic tools.
This is it. These are simple to work on. You've not got ECUs and diagnostics you've got to plug in, have you? You've hit the nail on the head with the nostalgia thing, because at the moment 80s cars are in vogue. Everyone wants RS turbos and Golf GTIs, because the people of your generation now are growing up and saying, oh, I remember those when I was a kid, and they're in their 40s or 50s, they've got a bit of money, which is why they're so in demand. But the generation that remembers these and that lusted after a Humber, for example, a Humber 12, they're not really with us anymore. Younger people, particularly at my age, they would look at a 90-year-old car and think, how am I ever going to work on it and drive it, and what am I going to do to get parts? And I think more often than not with classic cars, you shouldn't be scared. Sometimes you just got to live and learn and give it a go. I don't think this is that much harder to drive than a Morris Minor. And there are young people that have Morris Minors and Austin A35s and what have you, because that's an interesting classic, and they'd maybe be put off by something like this because they think it's another level up in terms of complexity and difficulty. Honestly, I don't think it is, and I think this is much more interesting to have than a Morris Minor when you might get 10 of them at your local classic car show. You're not going to get 10 of these.
No. It's a joyous experience.
It's great fun, isn't it? It's something totally different. You're having a great time, and I will pre-warn, if you are going to step out of a modern car into a pre-war car, you've got to adjust your expectations a little bit.
And certainly your brake distances.
Your braking distances, double declutching has got to be your friend. Noise and refinement, no. But trafficator cool points, 10 out of 10. The other thing you've got to bear in mind, those skinny little wheels, wire wheels obviously, with old school cross-ply tyres, it's not going to out-corner an MX-5. You take it slow and steady and just relax in the moment. That's what classic cars are about. And the other thing we want to talk about is the values of these, because the amount of pre-war cars that are an absolute bargain to buy these days. You jump online now, you'll find any number of pre-war Austins and Humbers and Morrises and all kinds of things for four-figure sum. And I think for what you get and the charming experience you get, it's a bit of a bargain, really.
There lies the opportunity. You know, if you're not looking at it as a daily driver, you're looking at it for a sunny Sunday or a car show, it's perfect, isn't it? So
I'm thoroughly convinced if I had the room, I'd have one. I really like it. Let us know in the comments though, would you own a pre-war car? What do you think of them?
I think when I get back, I'm going to sell these grab handles on eBay. It'll be money for old rope.